All right, hello, my lovely Leos. We are doing your reading for February 12th through the 25th. I have switched to doing readings on a 2-week instead of 1 week, mainly because it's really hard to do 12 videos and to edit and upload them in a week. I see some of these creators on here, you guys, that do these tarot readings, and I have absolutely no idea how these people can do 12 readings in a week and also do like these little extra videos that they do, because that to me is insane. I mean, to be fair, I do all of this myself. I don't have any, editors or anything like that. It's just me. So, maybe if I had extra people to do my work for me, it'd probably be pretty easy. But anyway, I'm just saying, I don't understand how come they can do these readings so fast. Because let me tell you, I get exhausted trying to just do, 12 every other week. So anyway, enough about me and my stuff, my complaining. Let's go ahead and get started, Leos. Right off the bat, overall, looking at your cards here, there is a lot of reversals. You have a ton of cards in reverse. And you also have, let's see, you have 1, 2, 3. You have 3 major arcana cards. Nothing crazy, but, still finding a lot in here. And there is pieces of happiness and brightness, but I feel like what's going on is there's a lot of internal processing happening here. And let's go ahead and get started so that we can get into it a little bit more here. Starting off on February 12th here, you have the 3 of Pentacles in reverse. Now, normally this card is about having positive synergy. Normally this card is about balancing things between 3 different points, work, home, and family, work, side hustle, and, self-care, whatever the 3 things that you're balancing and taking care of. Normally this card is about properly balancing these things, but in this case, with it being a reversal, you may be feeling a strain between these 3 aspects of yourself, these 3, hats that you wear, if you will. So maybe some of you have a work, a volunteer thing, and a side hustle to make extra money, and you're feeling the strain in one of these, or even all 3 of these particular areas. So I would just caution you at this time, you may be feeling the strain at, trying to take care of and balancing all these things for yourself. And just make sure that you're taking care of yourself too. Trying to take care of all of these other things, keep all your ducks in a row. When we're struggling trying to take care of these things, we can often, put ourself and our well-being on the sidelines, trying to, put out all these fires. So just make sure you're taking time to take care of yourself too, okay? Then we move on to your Tuesday, the 13th. We have the 7 of Wands in reverse. This can sometimes be defensiveness. I feel like what's going on here is that you may be being asked to do a lot, or you may be trying to convince yourself that you're not doing too much. That's kind of what I'm feeling here, is that you are doing too much and you're trying to convince yourself that you're not. You're trying to say, oh, no, this is totally fine. I'm doing fine. I'm handling it all myself. I don't need help. And reevaluating the hills that we die on. When we have that saying of, dying on this hill, standing up for something, fighting over it, and, sticking our feet down and saying, no, this is what I'm going to do. It's our convictions. And so evaluating, are your motivations, are your convictions in the right place? Are you taking on more than what you can do, and you're trying to, stick your feet down and say, no, I can do this, I swear, even when, that may not necessarily be true. You may kind of have overexerted yourself a little bit. So there is some of that evaluation going on. And, taking a step back from defending so harshly against this thing, or defending this thing so harshly. Not even just defending against something, but, the thing that you are defending. Oh, I hope that I hope that makes sense. It makes sense to me, but it has to make sense to you too. So hopefully, I'm getting that message across clear. It feels like there's something here that you are you know, digging your heels in really hard with, and you're trying to say that, no, I have this, I got this, instead of accepting, you know, help, or accepting that you might need a break or maybe have taken on too much. So whatever the case may be, Leo, you are going to know what the answer is specifically in your case. Let's go ahead and move on here. On Wednesday, which is Valentine's Day, Wednesday the 14th, we have the Princess of Pentacles in reverse. This is kind of an interesting card to get for your Valentine's Day, because this isn't necessarily a love-related card. This card is more associated with, you know, building financial legacy. This is about, you know, putting in the work towards building your finances. Sometimes it can kind of indicate some overspending when it's in the reverse like this. So I feel like what's going on is that right now your brain isn't even on love, Leo. Like, I feel like looking at all of this, you know, there are a couple cards like the 6 and the 3 of Cups here that are kind of about love, but I feel like that's just not even on your radar. You are so focused on, I don't want to say the grind, but like kind of, you're focused on your money. You're focused on your, I don't even want to just say wealth and money. I want to say you're focused on providing not just money, but providing, like, you know, emotional happiness and providing stability. And so I feel like that's just really what this is you are thinking about your stability. You're thinking about the things that you are investing in, and not just investing money-wise, but investing time-wise, investing energy-wise, you know. So just reevaluating, thinking about, you know, the things that you are spending your emotional money on, or even your physical money. All right, let's move on here. We have the Hermit card in reverse for Thursday the 15th. This is the first of your 3 major arcana cards. And let's talk about the Hermit real quick, because the Hermit is taking a break. In the upright, this is a card about taking a break, or taking a, you know, a self-imposed isolation or vacation to think about things for yourself, to take a look deep within at, you know, maybe the reason why you are doing things, or the way that you are. And this is really about taking a look deep within, doing that shadow work, and, you know, getting into the nitty-gritty of why we do the things that we do. So when this card shows up in the reverse, it can often mean that we are resisting looking at these things, that we are resisting taking a look at our motivations, or, you know, we may be kind of, in a way, subtly aware of these things, but we are kind of like sticking our fingers in our ears going, la la la, like, I can't hear you, because we would rather ignore what we are feeling or thinking, and we would rather push it down than to confront it head on. And so, Leo, I kind of feel like that's what you're doing here, is that, you know, things are kind of turbulent. You're kind of feeling the strain a little bit about the things that you are doing, or the way that you are, you know, putting energy into things. And instead of listening to the message of, you know, the things within, instead of listening to your inner voice about, you know, hey, we need to take a break, we need to take a step back from this, or maybe ask for some help, you're kind of being a little stubborn here and putting, you know, like I said, putting your fingers in your ears and not wanting to hear, not wanting to confront that, okay, yeah, I need to change up what I'm doing here. And, you know, Leo, that sounds like a bad thing, but I mean, not listening when you need to make a change is a bad thing. But, you know, being stuck in this action is not, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that, you know, I'm telling you this message because it's something that you need to hear. And once we become aware of it, once we become aware of our actions and the things that we are doing, is when we can take the opportunity to, you know, evaluate and say, hey, maybe I am doing this thing, and now I can have the option to make a choice. You know, if we're not aware of the things that we're doing, it can, you know, make it really hard for us to make changes. If we're just kind of going off of, you know, the way that we've always been doing things, evaluation is an opportunity for you to make a change. So that's all I'm saying here. That's all I'm giving you here is this opportunity for evaluation and therefore an opportunity for making a change. So, like I said, this doesn't make you a bad person. This doesn't mean that you're, a bad person because you're not doing this. We're all humans. We all do these things. We all, sometimes ignore messages or ignore the things that we need to be doing because we know it's a little harder. We kind of avoid the pain of doing the thing. So, like I said, I'm just giving you the message that I'm hearing and reading from these cards, and you can do with it what you will. Whether or not you do choose to take the opportunity to evaluate or make a change is entirely up to you. Now, speaking of change, speaking of evaluation and doing things differently, your very next card here on Friday is the Tower in reverse. Now, the Tower is less about, it's not really something, okay, how do I say this? The Tower is not necessarily something you choose in a way. Does that make sense? The Tower is more something happens to you that causes you to reevaluate things, to reevaluate what is going on. It gives you an opportunity to make a change, but the Tower is kind of more of the event that lets you know that something needs to change. And with this card being in the reverse, sometimes it can mean that you are resisting this change, or that there is, this thing has happened and you are still kind of ignoring the message of what happened. So, for example, right? If you are working out super hard every single day and you get injured because you are working out super hard every day and overdoing it, and choosing to not listen to that message from your body and choosing to still work out super hard every day despite an injury, or continuing to do the same thing without changing even after receiving an injury. That's kind of what this energy is it's, something is happening or has happened here for some of you that is causing you to, maybe think about changing, but I feel like you haven't really accepted it at this point. Or it could be, I'm kind of getting this other feeling that it's, not that you haven't accepted it. How do I say this? You are aware that there is a change or something needs to be done, and you may just not necessarily be ready to accept it, or you may not necessarily know the steps that you need to take to make this change. And so instead of taking these first steps, you're kind of like in this hesitancy of like, yeah, I know it needs to change, but I'm just not ready yet to do it. I don't know. Confusing energy here. But that's kind of what I'm getting, is that, things need to change, or things are going to change, and you are just not in this space yet of being ready to receive it. But let's look on the positive side here, or I feel like this is kind of positive here. You have on Saturday the Six of Cups. And this card does have a sense of positivity to it. This is, love. This is, it can sometimes be looking at things through rose-colored glasses and thinking about, things being better than what they were. This card does have kind of a piece of the past to it. So you may be reminiscing on the past and thinking about, the good times and things like that, sort of. What I'm getting from this is, how do I say this? There is still a piece of happiness in whatever this thing is for you. So I feel like that might be why you are having a hard time making this change or accepting this change, is that there is still this happiness here in it for you. You're still receiving, or maybe it's not that there's still happiness, but maybe you're remembering the times that there was happiness associated with this thing. Maybe you're still thinking about the better times, and you're not necessarily being truthful with yourself about the less than good times. I don't feel like this is a person from this reading alone here, Leo, I don't feel like this is about a relationship. I feel like this is more about yourself and the way things have been being done. And so, like the example that I gave about the working out, right? Maybe some of you are thinking, and the working out is just an example. I mean, of course, if you are working out over hard and overexerting yourself, you know, then yeah, that message is specifically for you. But I'm just kind of using it as an example to explain the sensations that I'm feeling. So, in the example of this working out, right? Maybe this super hard working out regimen thing that you've been doing has been giving you really cool results. Like maybe it gave you a really awesome 6-pack, or, you know, but you ended up hurting your back, throwing your back out from trying to do these exercises. That's kind of what I mean. But you're more focused on, hey, I got this really cool thing out of it. I got this, you know, really awesome 6-pack. And you're choosing to think about that instead of thinking about, well, you know, I did get a back injury, so maybe I should kind of try to, you know, do some other exercises to make sure that doesn't happen again to strengthen my back. Or maybe I need to not do that kind of exercise anymore and I need to start doing a different kind. So that's the best way I can think of to explain the feeling that I'm getting, is that you're kind of reminiscing on like the good things that came out of this, out of the way this thing has been going. And maybe you're even, you know, finding some sort of happiness from it. You know, maybe this, in the case of the example, this working out thing is, you know, helping you feel happy, and, you know, maybe it is helping you in some way, but you're more focused on that instead of being truthful about maybe the detrimental aspects. So I hope that made sense. And like I said, this may not necessarily be specifically a working out thing. This could be you putting in a lot of work towards like a project or multiple projects, and thinking about, well, all the good that you can get, or maybe all the money that you can get from doing these projects, without thinking about the negative repercussions about the money spent on these projects, or, you know, your mental health during these projects, things like that. So take it where it resonates. You know, only you are going to know exactly what this specific thing is talking about. I'm just here to give the examples and give the messages. So take it how it resonates. Only you will know exactly where in your life this thing is occurring. Let's move on to Sunday here. You have the Knight of Cups in reverse. So this is definitely a lot more of that energy of things not being quite as they seem. The Knight of Cups, this is a person who comes in with more promises than they can keep. And you know, it may have had this enticing quality to it, whatever this thing was at the beginning, in the beginning. Okay, sorry. You know, this thing might have had a more enticing quality to it at the beginning than what it can actually, you know, accomplish. So maybe you went into this project thinking it would be a really good, you know, opportunity for some charity work, but then, you know, you realize that the people running this charity are greedy mofos, you know. Again, just an example, but maybe for some of you that's exactly what's going on. I don't know. But this is definitely that energy that I'm getting. There was more promises made than what could be kept. There was more, almost, I feel like there was more fulfillment, especially. Like almost you expected to get this sense of relief, or maybe fulfillment. There we go. You were expecting a lot more fulfillment out of this thing than what you actually received. You were expecting it to fill up more of your cup, make you more happy, you know, and to get more out of this thing than what you actually got. So, you know, again, it's going to be up to you about where you decide to make these changes. And actually, when we get into this next week here, I do see there is kind of this reevaluating opportunity, and, you know, thinking about the things that really do matter. So let's start on the next week here. On Monday, you have the Hanged Woman in reverse. Okay, so this card, first off, I always think it's funny when this card shows up in the reverse, because then this person looks like they're upright when really they're like this. So just a little funny thing for me specifically. But This card here is a precipice of change, like being on the edge, ready to jump for change. The Hanged Woman is the card right before the Death card and right after the Justice card. So it has this element of change to it. And I often say that, this is that last breath between life and death. So, there is this transition piece in the middle of it. You have, one foot in one world and the other foot in the other world. Kind of like standing on the boundary line between two places. And so, you have one foot on each side of this boundary line. In the case of the Hanged Woman, it's, the veil or whatever. But you have one foot in each thing. And so it's kind of this, balancing act of like, I'm in the middle, but am I ready to put all of my weight on this next foot and move into this new opportunity? And this breath before this change kind of allows you to, think about it. And when it happens a lot to people when we are experiencing growth or, maturing within ourselves, we kind of, reach this, it feels like a stalling point, but it's not stalling because you've still made progress. You've still made movements towards this thing. But it's kind of this space right before we experience a big jump in our growth, where we get to think about things, where we get to look back on the past and the things that we've done and the places that we've been. And, it allows us this space before we make this big leap of growth in this new direction. So try not to think about it as like a stalling. Try not to think about it as, a lack of momentum. It's a pause that allows you to recuperate and to, pull all your thoughts and feelings together before this massive jump of growth for you. So, like I said, you're in between 2 points, in between two realities, moving from this place of, I feel like, we were talking a lot about making this change for yourself or recognizing that things need to change. And I feel like this is you on that precipice of change, one foot in maybe the old way that you've done things and another foot getting ready to move into a new way to do things, a new way to experience life and growth and all sorts of those things. Tuesday, you have the Three of Cups. And this card to me feels like the writing of that Three of Pentacles that we started with. On Monday, the 12th, we started with the Three of Pentacles in reverse. And I feel like this Three of Cups, we took that reverse energy of not having things balanced, and we were not only able to write it, make it upright, but we were able to find love in it. We were able to find fulfillment, emotional happiness, and growth. So I feel like after the Hanged Woman, we move into this energy of, hey, I do have the ability to make a change and do something new. And not only does this change, bring me happiness, but it also allows me to realize like, hey, when I'm doing things differently, this works, and, being excited about it. Now, the Three of Cups can also be, friendships. It can be camaraderie and, relationships, having a good time with people, your family, your friends. So for some of you on this Tuesday, you may even be celebrating something with people. But that's kind of a more specific, smaller group of you. I feel like that might not be everybody, of course. Not every Leo is going to go out on Tuesday and have a grand time. But I do feel like there is this sense of, happiness and things working for you. Something changes and you're able to experience this happiness, or even I feel like this is relief that things have changed and now you're like, okay, cool, things are back on the right track and we're working again. Or even just having that epiphany and that little piece of being able to see things working again leaves you with this sense of relief that, okay, yes, I can do this thing. I can make this change. Now let's talk about these next two cards. And I say two because they're kind of similar energies in a way. And they are both eights. So, you have that double 8 there. We're going to start first with the Eight of Cups. And this is, again, a little bit more of that contemplative energy. The Eight of Cups is about walking away from things that are no longer serving you. And in order to walk away from something that is no longer serving you, you have to evaluate what is and isn't. You have to evaluate the things that are going on and, decide for yourself whether or not this thing is really worth it. And like I said, you have this moment of precipice between the change, and you see this, what this change can bring you. And so now on Wednesday here, this is kind of that moment where you're thinking, okay, so now I know that change needs to be made. I've seen what this change can do for me. And now evaluating maybe the result of that change, or evaluating, the possibility that the change is bringing up for you. I hope that makes sense. That's kind of what I'm getting from this. It's this contemplative energy about thinking about, where you're going, walking towards your future, and thinking about, okay, what things can I bring with me into this new shift, and what things do I need to be leaving behind? Which moves us on to this Thursday card here, which is the Eight of Swords in reverse. And this is all about the things that we leave behind. And specifically, it's about leaving behind limiting beliefs, limiting things about ourselves. This card is normally about being in self-imposed restrictions. This is about the things that we tell ourselves, like, I'll never be good enough to do that. I'll never achieve XYZ because I am, fill in the blank. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not experienced enough. And this is you leaving behind those thoughts, leaving behind those limiting things that are keeping you stuck in a place of fear and in the place of, stagnation that we find ourselves in with this feeling of change. This is you recognizing that, okay, I'm telling myself, or I have been telling myself, that I'm not good enough. I have been telling myself that I'm not capable of this change. And this is you, instead of telling yourself these things, this is you going, you know what? I am good enough. Not because I am, a person good enough for this, but because I am. I am a being who is smart. I am kind. I am brave. I am capable of doing this thing simply because I am, and not because anybody else tells me that I am. So, Leo, I feel like this is you, taking those shackles off yourself, taking the limiting beliefs and leaving them in the trash where they belong. This is you accepting that I can make this change. I can move forward and do something a little bit different. Then we move on Friday here to the Ten of Wands. So with change, with great power comes great responsibility. Let's that just kind of popped into my head. So the Ten of Wands here, this is burdens. This is the things that we hold on to. And I feel like, when we make these big changes, when we get the inspiration to make these changes and we leave some things behind, I feel like this is kind of the moment where you kind of realize how much you have been holding yourself back. And I actually had this card in the previous reading for, I think it was Cancer. It might have been Cancer, or it might have been Taurus. I can't remember. But I talked about this card a little bit. And this card, when you look at it, this person is weighed down by these things. They're carrying all this heavy weight on their back. And they are so weighed down by them that they can't even look towards the future. They're not looking towards the right side of the card here and looking ahead towards their future. They can only look down at their feet, look down at the ground, and look down at their steps. They have to take things one step at a time because they are so weighed down. And because they are so focused on just their survival in the now, they're not able to dream about the future and the things that they want to do. So, with that being said, I feel like what this card is it's not necessarily you being weighed down. I feel like what this is that, sometimes when we get these inspirations to do new things, we can kind of give ourselves a lot of, we can give ourselves a lot more work than what we're really capable of doing in one moment. So like, maybe you make the change to, how do I say this? Maybe you make the decision to start eating healthier, right? But then you kind of go a little crazy and you decide, well, I'm not only going to eat healthier, but I'm going to heavily restrict myself. I'm going to only do this, and I'm going to work out really hard, and I'm going to do, just in the one case here, the example I'm giving you, we can kind of weigh ourselves down more than what we necessarily need to be doing. And I feel like that's what this is that now you have become aware of this change. Now you're, getting ready to make this change, and you might be jumping into it with a little bit more than what you can really handle at this time. So I would kind of encourage you to focus on the baby steps without weighing yourself down too much. Start small. Making change is really hard and it takes practice. And we have to start with the small stuff, because if we start too big, we're going to overwhelm ourselves and we're going to backtrack. We're going to backslide from, achieving this thing that we want. So avoid giving yourself too much work to do right at the beginning. Give yourself baby steps. Start with the little bits here and there. Start with, babies start with sitting upright, and then they start with crawling, and then they start with trying to walk, and then eventually they can walk and then run. You have to start small and build up your skills before you can have this, full moment for yourself. So, like I said, it's not necessarily a negative thing, but maybe more just something to be aware of before you start moving in this really big new direction. Your last two cards here, Leo, let's talk about them. We have the Six of Swords here in reverse for Saturday. This card is about leaving things in the past. It's about moving away from past painful experiences and moving towards, a different future for yourself. And it's not to say that you will never experience painful things, because, that's not how life works. Things ebb and flow. They will still, the things that you have been through will always kind of be there a little bit. It's going to be something that has shaped you and changed you as a person. And because of that, you're never going to be 100% free from them. But you also do not have to allow them to control your future. So, these swords in this case, they have had, pain in their past. They've had things taken from them. They've had things, happen to them that have been painful, and they've undergone, some hurt. And, leaving it in the past doesn't mean that it disappears. Leaving it in the past doesn't mean that this pain, automatically goes away. But what it means is that you're choosing to look towards your future, to think about new things instead of being controlled by these things that have happened. Allowing them to move away from you. And time is the best healer of all things. The further away we get from these painful things, the more that we can kind of distance ourselves from it and start to try to heal from it. And even when these, painful things, even when new painful things come back up, we've already gone through painful things. We've already survived it. And so pushing through it is a little bit easier because we have, other experiences that we can pull from and say, hey, I survived this. Even if this thing is really hard, even if I'm going through this, it's nowhere near the hardest thing that I've been through. And so I know that I can survive this. I know that I can get through this because I have that, experience to look back on. Leo, even though you're moving forward into new things and moving away from things, it's not to say that these painful things go away, but that we find ourselves distanced from it. Lastly, here on Sunday, Leo, you have the Two of Wands in reverse. So, this is the change. This is, or not even necessarily the change. The Two of Wands is, choosing between two paths, choosing between two options. In the case of the Two of Wands, I'm going to flip it upright just so you can see it a little bit better. There are these two illuminated red paths, but if you look closely, there's actually this kind of dark path right in the middle. And it's meant to indicate, sometimes we have hidden options available to us. It can indicate, taking the path less traveled. Instead of taking the two conventional options, choosing to look outside the box. With this card being in the reverse, I feel like for you specifically, Leo, I don't feel like this change is being presented to you. I feel like this is you considering your options. You're not necessarily in a place ready to make this change fully. You're not 100% on board with moving forward in this direction, but you are considering it, you're becoming aware of it, and you're evaluating the options available to you and trying to decide where to move forward next. So, Leo, you are on the precipice of change. You have evaluated, things have, you've seen kind of what the other side of this change would look like for you. I feel like this is very, very nearby, this change or this thing that you are going through. I feel like whatever this is, the choice being presented is very, very close by. So these 2 weeks are about you becoming aware of it before the option is presented. And once this option is presented, you're going to have to make a change. But at this time, at this moment specifically, I feel like this is before this change. I feel like you're going to be presented with the opportunity to make a choice, but that choice is not yet here, and it's going to be something that you are, all of this is preparing you for. So anyway, Leo, I hope that this reading has made sense. I hope that it has helped you in some way with, going through this decision. And I just feel like this is a really good week for you, or a really good couple weeks here. I feel like this is, a lot of inner work going on. There's a lot happening here for you, and you're re-evaluating things, taking the time to think about things. And like I said, I feel like this is just some really good stuff going on for you. So anyway, thank you for being here today, Leo, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.